guys, so today's video, it's something that I normally don't do, but I personally decided to be like, you know what, it's something, I played a lot of games this year, and I wanted to showcase them, and more like which ones I liked, which ones I'm not gonna really say which ones I didn't like or anything, because I did enjoy a fair amount of them. But I would say these are like my personal top games. I'm not gonna even throw on like the bottom five in terms of like 10 and before and whatever. But I enjoyed these games. I think these top 10, and there's gonna be like maybe one or two honorable mentions in terms of like I wanted them to be on this list, but I just I enjoyed other games over it in some way. So yeah, so we're gonna start with the honorable mention, and the honorable mention for this video will be I know a lot of people hated this game. I know for sure everybody really had something against this game. I didn't. I wanted to try it out just to see what people really hated about it, and I kind of understand what it is, and I still really honestly enjoyed it. So the honorable mention, I guess, will probably be just one game, honestly. Will be Forspoken. I think Forspoken was a pretty fun game. I thoroughly enjoyed the combat. The combat was very fun. The abilities were pretty much incredible, except for like a couple where they were kind of just useless at times. But I thoroughly enjoyed them. The story itself, at least, it takes some time. I'm not gonna lie to you, it does take some time. It took me about maybe 2 hours or so, in all honesty, to actually like sit down and start to enjoy the game, because it doesn't really start off that great, in all honesty. It takes a bit, and it gets pretty boring fast, I will admit. But after you start getting into the open world itself, it turns into just a very fun world where you can just mess around, and you start to I guess, depending on the person that you are and the type of people that you like, you might not like Faye's character. I think it was Faye. Yeah. And so she does come around a little bit annoying at times, but she's a fun character. I think her relationship with the Bengal was fun. It was funny, it was entertaining at times, and pretty I think it was like that comic relief that it kind of needed throughout the game when it got to the serious moments. Even though itself the game wasn't really that great in terms of everything else, like the world was kind of bland, I will admit, very empty. But then again, if you really pay attention to the story, you kind of understand as to why. So as to why it is all just messed up and empty as hell, and nobody alive, basically. So I don't know if I really should give ratings to these games. I don't know for sure entirely, but if I was gonna give it a rating, I would probably go with maybe a 6, a 6.5 or 6 out of 10. I think it was a pretty decent game, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And well, I would not say pay full price for it. I personally did not pay full price for this game. I paid about $20. So if you ever see it go cheap, or if it ever goes like free in terms of like PlayStation Plus and all that stuff, give it a try. I think if you sit down and honestly give it, somewhat of a try, and don't shit on it because other people shit on it, basically, it becomes a fairly good game. And I think that's what helped me, at least, to enjoy and have fun with it. I played about 50 hours, I want to say, I think exactly 50 hours. And I was able to 100% the game. I got the platinum. I played the DLC. The DLC was actually pretty freaking good. And yeah, like I ended up kind of missing the game at some point, but I was like, you know what? I think I can get over it. I played it. People hated it. I loved it. And I'm just gonna stop it there, So it's like, I'm not gonna really shit on it, but I'm not gonna say it was an amazing game. It was a decent game. And Lord knows that we've had horrendous games for this year. That's for sure. So, yeah. Next one will be number 10. So number 10 was a pretty recent addition. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's very, very recent, like 3 days ago. Recent. I had bought this game a couple months ago, and I was expecting it to be pretty good. You know, I'm a big fan of Telltale and their stuff, so I was expecting it to be a very good game, very fun off the bat kind of deal. So Telltale's The Expanse, or The Expanse, a Telltale series, whichever you want to go with, was my number 10. I thoroughly I ended up streaming this game because I normally have decided to just stream episodic games since they take a long time. So at first, I'm not gonna lie to you, first episode I was not really impressed. Not a big fan of it. I was kind of like, wow, you know, this is kind of shit. But as I went through it, played some other games, or not other games, played more of the episodes. I played about 2 a stream, and so after the first episode, I was kind of like, nah, I don't like this. I don't really like the characters that much. I'm not really having, you know, that much of a connection with these characters. I would say compared to like other Telltale games like The Walking Dead. And I was just not having fun with it, the first episode. Second episode, I kind of started picking up a little bit, and I started understanding some of these characters as to why they're here, why they exist, kind of deal. And I started liking it. I started liking it even more, and next day I went to 2 more episodes, and I got even more attached to these characters, and it was something that even like got me more interested in watching the show itself. I started kind of watching it after the first stream, and the first couple episodes, same with the show. It's like, okay, you know, it's whatever. Has, you know, some a well-known actor like Thomas Jane on it, so I was like, oh, that's, you know, amazing. I like Thomas Jane. So I started watching the show because, you know, I was like, the game was pretty decent. The show looks pretty good. I've had it on my my watch list forever. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna watch it and let's see how this goes. So same with the game. It took me a couple episodes, I will not lie to you, but as the show goes on, it gets so much better. Same with the game. As the game goes on, it gets so much better. Everything just starts to pick up. And so it made characters a lot more interesting. And I do feel like these games or this game was a bit shorter than the normal that they do for episodic games. So I was kind of like expecting a bit more in terms of the episodes, especially the last one. The last one was like only like 40 minutes long. And so I'm kind of used to Telltale games taking me at least an hour, almost 2, to finish per episode. So it was kind of like disappointed in terms of how short that last episode was and how fast everything went through. But it was okay because I still had a bonus episode to deal with. It took me like another hour or so. So it was like, it kind of made up to it. It introduced me to the, what's her name? To the, I forget her name. I'm not gonna lie. So I think it's like Christian on the show, at least Christian on the show, which is done by this amazing actress that I like her on her stuff, and I like her character in this show. So I was very very nice to just go through the show and the game. So it does take a while to get into, unlike any other Telltale game. So, you know, it kind of just unmotivated me to play it at a time. But like I said, as I went through it, I liked it, I enjoyed it. I think episodes 3 and 4 are probably my favorites in terms of the action that happens and like all the stuff that you got to go through. And yeah, it's like it takes some time to get used to the game because they kind of changed a little bit on how the old Telltale games were. So you're not really expecting it to go off, you know, how they normally do. And the game itself looks pretty good. It's not a comic book like shaded, so it doesn't look like any of the Walking Dead or what other games that did it. I think Borderlands, Tales of the Borderlands did it. So like it doesn't look like any of those, and it has like its own new character designs in terms of how they look in the game and the engine, I guess. So I liked it. I'm not gonna lie to you, I liked it. I went in there with no expectations of it being bad or good. And I would say like the game was just, it was good. I enjoyed it, like I said. And it was like one of the most recent games I played that I added to this list out of nowhere. Hence why First Spoken is honorable mention to me, at least, because that was going to be my number 10. So I think that out of overall, the fact that I like that game a bit more than Forspoken speaks a lot, and I might have picked favorites just because I like Telltale a lot. So, yeah, here's hoping that they do more games and maybe more games of the series. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was fun and interesting, and it got me hooked on the show itself. So, if you're gonna go and rate it, I would honestly maybe give it a 7, maybe 7.5 or 8. It's around there, and like it was good. If we're basing it off of episodes and how the story kind of moved, I maybe just give it a 7, just plain off. But with how I enjoyed it, at least, I will probably give it almost an 8, so like a 7.5. So it was a good game. It was something that got me interested on the show itself, and I might even just go to the source material and read some of the books too, like some of the novels. So I know they have a couple of those. So I might actually go try and invest more time into the series and see if I like it even more. So yeah. At number 9, we have AC Mirage. Assassin's Creed Mirage was was something that I was, I guess, expecting this year to come out. Like, I was kind of happy for it, but after Valhalla, I was kind of just like, I'm not going to expect too much of anything for it. I'm just going to buy it, play it, and see how it goes. And I'll be honest with you, it was okay. At least to me, it was okay. I loved the theme, the Arabian theme. I love it. Or I think it's Iranian. Iran, Iraq. It's somewhere down there. It's Middle Eastern. Let's go with that. And it was beautiful. If we're going by environment, Ubisoft almost always knows what the fuck they're doing with those kind of things. So if we're going off of the environment and the theme of it and the whole the essence of Assassin's Creed, I think that really just nails it. I think in general, it did capitalize on the fact that it's trying to go back in time to the original Assassin's Creed, and it's trying to go very heavily on the stealth centering, and which it did perfectly. I think their stealth in that game was pretty fucking good, but the combat was kind of lacking. The combat itself was just lacking, but we'll save that for a little bit later. But I think overall, I like it. It's a culture that I like, and I've always been interested in it. So it was something that I was like, I don't care about Basim, but I like that culture. I want to see how they portray it, and it was interesting. It was beautiful. The maps, or at least the city that we were in Baghdad, was amazing. It was beautiful. The design was incredible. It gave me that nostalgia as if I was playing the original Assassin's Creed. So I think they did well by that, 100%. I think they did an amazing job with designing the area and designing the video of not the video, but the environment. If we're going for story, the story, I'm really honest with you, the story was okay. I didn't really like it. Like I said, I was not interested in Basim at all. And I had no connection with Basim in any way, just because we kind of know, if you played Valhalla, we kind of already know what the hell they're trying to go to, you know? So there was nothing really shocking or surprising as to what was happening. And that was kind of like really what really killed it, is the fact that it's just like a little prequel to Valhalla. And yeah, like it was something that I was really not expecting it to connect with anybody or anything. And it was just that. It's like a game that was there for a placeholder. And it was pretty much it. It was a DLC that turned into a full-fledged game, and I think they did well for what they were trying to do, like I said, with the stealth and all their trying to go back to the roots of Assassin's Creed and all that. And I even like the stuff they did with the 40 Thieves. I like the 40 Thieves story. And I think they had like a whole pre-order bonus thing with the Prince of Persia. I love that. I love Prince of Persia. So I was a big fan of that. And I liked the outfits. I think the outfits are pretty nice, especially with the colors and all that stuff that emphasized all the the culture that that area has. So I was very intrigued by everything else except the character. I don't think Basim was anything ever interesting to me since Valhalla, at least personally to me, at least. But I'm not going to call it a horrible game. I think I've seen worse, in all honesty, if we're really going to call it a horrible game. But if we're going to base it on if it's Assassin's Creed, hell yeah, it's Assassin's Creed. And it was just fun to feel like you were playing the original ones. I know they had like a whole filter where you can make it look like you were in the original Assassin's Creed. So, I think that even helped a lot more people get into it for the nostalgia factor. But if we're basing it on story, I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of it. But it was it was fun. It was fun to play, but it got very, very annoying at times, especially with the combat. I think that the combat needs a bit more work. Parkour was pretty fun at times. Other times it'll just mess up on you and feel like if they wanted to do nostalgia with ruining, or not ruining, but like having the parkour mess up 90% of the time, they did amazing. They replicated that annoyance. But if we're talking about them going back to their roots, I think the game was good on doing that. They did what they promised and they went back to their roots. They still had the power bullshit. I don't care that they had the power bullshit. I used it. It's whatever to me. I'm used to the fact that they have powers now because it's really nothing new. It's just that they make it more prominent and they actually put it into the game, except instead of actually making it to where it's like one part of a mission, like what they did with Ezio a couple times. So I think it was something that they dedicated or they focused on what they wanted to do and they did it, and I think they did it successfully. But the story, again, I wasn't a big fan of it. It's just, I think it's mainly a personal preference kind of deal. I just didn't like Basim. Basim is just boring to me. So yeah, that's number 9. And if we're gonna give it a rating, I'll probably give it like a 7.5. Yeah, 7.5. It was good. It was fun, but it was just the story was just too meh, and it's just that wasn't something that I was having fun with. In all honesty, like I said, I was not interested in Boston, but I was more interested on the culture and how those people were back in those times. So that is what interested me, at least me, the most. Now, on to number 8. Number 8, we're gonna have this one was a toughie, but I think Dead Island 2 will probably be number 8. But again, don't get me wrong, I don't hate these games that are in the bottom. It's just that they're not better than the top 5. Again, in my personal opinion. So my number 8 is Dead Island 2. Once again, because it is a game that I've been waiting for so long for. I think it was almost 10 years that since the first quote unquote 2 games came out, and I used to be following the development for this game, and it's just out of nowhere it just disappeared, and all they had was the one trailer that it did, and then they had a game cover, and then it just all disappeared out of nowhere for years and years. It's only not until later that I discovered that they had more development issues, and I was pretty much stuck in development hell. But once the game came out, I was so happy. I was finally I get to play this game I've been waiting for so goddamn long, and I was not disappointed in any way at all. It was just like it never went away. It was a little bit different than the originals, I will give it that, but it still felt like you were playing the originals. It didn't take too much away from anything. It was still pretty fun, gory as hell. The characters were funny at times, and the weapons were just insane to mess around with. I kind of wish there were more in terms of how they would look, but they were still fun to mess around with. I think the combos that you could come up with are always fun. So If we're gonna go with story, I don't think the story is what makes Dead Island Dead Island. I think it's more of what it does in terms of what the characters, the zombies, and the area that it's in. Um, and well, we don't have any of the originals besides Sam B come back in any way. You still feel like you're playing, just like the old games. It's just new people, and these new people are pretty interesting. They'll have their own quirks and whatnot, especially how the other ones in the first game did. The game itself was pretty cool, especially with the infected abilities that they had, and the I think, yeah, just it was like a deck builder that they had, and so with these decks, you would miss or just mix and match everything, and you see how you could build your own character to see how they either way more into their mutated powers or way more into just their skills in general. So those are always fun, and the story was okay. I think out of all the games that they have for Dead Island, which is 3 in total, this one had the best story, I think. Yeah. I've yet to play the DLC itself, but I was able to play the game, and I recorded it for you guys and everything, and I did a co-op with one of my buddies, and we enjoyed the hell out of the game. I think we hadn't had fun in a co-op game in so long since that, and until we got to that game. So, I did the game 100% co-op, no issues, no problems really. I was surprised how well the online worked, especially with some other games that have come out this year where online is just complete and utter trash. So it was fun. It was like a breath of fresh air in terms of co-op. I like to play co-op a lot, so it was something. It was like a good addition to the year, and it was fun. It was probably the most I enjoyed a game this year, and I would say if we're really gonna move it away from the bottom of the list, I would still probably put it like top 5, and just if we're shortening the list at least, if we're shortening the list to 5, yeah. So this would have been there. I think it was like that one game that I was just waiting for so long, and it finally came out. And it was pretty much almost perfect. Not really too many issues with it in terms of online connectivity. And we had some glitches here and there when it came to submissions, but those are fixed pretty fast. You just normally just exit the area and go back. So it was always like a pretty easy fix. I did feel like some of the monsters were a little bit of damage sponges at times, but I guess it just depended on the weapons you were using. I don't know, but yeah, I think I think damage overall was kind of spongy at some monsters specifically. The side missions were okay. They were just annoying to do. It was insufferable to do some of them. I even on one of the videos had a meltdown, but how bad it was. It was just it was so annoying. It had no business being there. But if we're being honest, I think the game was pretty much perfect besides those slight errors that they had in at least our game. I don't really have too many issues with it, so that's why I'm not gonna really shit on it. If anybody else had issues with it, that's probably on your side. I don't know. But personally, I enjoyed the hell out of this game. I loved it, and it was probably one of my favorites this year that came out earlier. I've yet to play the DLC. I'm planning on doing it at some point. I just need to find the time, and I've yet to do that. But I think this game is in a perfect spot because everything else is just it's just too high profile, in all honesty, compared to Dead Island 2. So we're gonna move on to the next one. Oh wait, forgot to give it a rating. So if we're giving it a rating, I will probably call it an 8. It was just really good. It was almost entirely perfect. Instead of my only issue with it was that it was not as open world as I would have liked it to be, like the original Dead Island games. But it was still fun. It was still pretty interesting to go through these little sandboxes and mess around in. But yeah, I will give it an 8 out of 10 if we're basing it on ratings or not. But yeah. And now let me move on to number 7. Yeah, 7. So number 7, this is another one that's kind of like very weird to put on the list as to where, because it was probably one of the earlier games this year, and it was Dead Space Remake. Dead Space Remake, I played Dead Space before, all 3 of them. I love them, I enjoy them. They're probably one of my favorite horror games out there. I don't play that many horror games either, so there's probably like, like 4 or 5 of them. But Dead Space Remake was probably one of my favorites, and it was almost perfect. Or it was perfect, if we're really going to be honest with it. If we're going to be 100%, it was perfect. Pulling out the Homelander meme, it was perfect. And it's just, I liked all the improvements, all the stuff that it just, like, they remade it completely to the T. And they added some stuff, they added some dialogue, and normally Isaac is the quiet, I guess the silent protagonist. Yeah, the quiet protagonist, silent protagonist, whatever the hell you want to call it. And having him have some lines in this game was cool, was interesting. You get to understand him as a character a lot more with talking. How much he does how much talking he does here. And it's like, it doesn't really overshadow anything. It's not anything too overwhelming with how much he talks. It's like, he talks when it's needed. So, if we're going by how different it is, it's not too much different. We have some, I guess I would say it plays a lot faster than the original. It's, the movement of Isaac is faster. He feels faster, and at times he does feel heavier. I don't know if that makes any sense to y'all, but it kind of does. Like, to me it does. It feels like it was a lot more loose. And especially with the fact that you can mess around with the controls and change it however you like. They had their own for the remake, and then they had the old classic controls. So, you can mess around with them however the hell you want it. And I was comfortable playing with this Dead Space 3 controls. But if we're going off the horror factor, I love how they did the horror. I think they did a lot better than the original in terms of how much they wanted to scare you. I played Callisto. I think the game was from last year, and I played Callisto, and that game didn't really scare me much at all. And I know it's like inspired by Dead Space, but I kind of expected to get scared a lot. I didn't get scared that many times on that game. On Dead Space Remake, I was getting almost scared every corner I took. So it was a game that it's so eerie and it's so compact. You're closed into that ship the entire time, so it freaks you out mostly. And I think they did such a good job with the sound. I played with my headset all the way up and everything. That shit's creepy as hell. So, like, if you play games that are horror and, like, they're just not really scary, it turns it off. It turns you off entirely. Callisto Protocol had that problem. And other many problems that I'm not going to mention here because it's not a Callisto video. But, I think overall Dead Space was so good. It felt nostalgic going through that game again, and I'm really hoping they do more. I think I like that team, that developer. I don't remember the name of it, but I think that team hopefully gets to make a remake of 2 and 3, and since they did such a good job on the first one, and the guns were fun, the upgrades were fun as hell. The monsters were scary as shit. It's like there's really not much you can say from a game that's already, like a classic. It's old, and it's like one of the remakes that I played this year, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. So it's on the bottom by the looks of it. But don't get me wrong, I love this game. I think it was amazing off the bat when it came out. So I'm bound to replay it at some point again. I don't know, but it's so good. I think if you like horror and you like space, you're gonna love Dead Space if you've never played it before, and it might even make you play the other games more. So it's just fun. It's one of those horror games that are just keep you on the edge of your seat at all times. They trick you with the sound. They trick you everywhere. They catch you off guard at all times. Never trust a dead body. So this game teaches you that in a very hard way. So I think if we're gonna rate it, I'll give it a very high rating just because of I personally think it was perfect, and I'll give it a 9, just how good it was. I don't think any of these games will have a 10, but I will give it a 9 just for the fact that it was just an amazing retelling of the game, and I liked it. I loved it. It was just too good. It's too good to not play it. Moving on to number 6. Number 6 is this will probably get me hate. I don't know, but it's gonna be Spider-Man 2. Um, I love Spider-Man 2, but I kind of expected it to be a lot more than the first game. The first game took me a week to beat it 100%. Spider-Man 2 took me 2 days, or less, actually. It was disappointing in terms of how short it felt. It didn't feel like they did much of anything new, besides changing how the weapons work, the gadgets, and adding more traversal options. I think that's pretty much it. The combat was fun, but it's pretty much almost the same as from the first game. I think it was fun as hell switching between Miles and Peter, for sure. I think that's probably one of those features that I like the most. Um, but I really did miss the amount of activities they kind of cut off. It feels like they didn't really have that many. I think it only had like 3 types, and no, maybe 4 types and 2 for each. I feel like them separating those activities was not really a good call. Just personally, I think they should have not separated these, but more in tune of just letting let the player pick whoever can do these. And I understand that they were kind of separate because they follow a specific story for the characters. But I feel like this game was just like a lot of friends that I know. It's just like it's too safe. It's too safe of a game that they didn't really try too much to add new, besides I guess the symbiote. So the voice acting was good. I'm not gonna get into it. I'm not I'm already over the Game Awards thing. So I'm fine with it. Yuri was cool. He was scary as fuck whenever he was symbiote, but it's okay. I'm not gonna shit on it. I'm not gonna say that it's bad, but I'm not gonna call it perfect either. I was excited for this game. Don't get me wrong. I did. I paid my money, and I enjoyed it. I loved it, but I felt that it was just so short. It felt so much shorter than the first game, and like I 100%ed it and everything, like I said, but it just felt short in terms of the story. Like like I said, it took me almost an entire week to 100% the first game. But this one, it took me 2 days. And I understand people don't like side quests and all that shit, but if you're a person that strives to go to the 100%, I think side quests are fun. It's just that the fact that they didn't really do much of any of them. I think they only had like 4. So like, adding more side quests might be a good thing or might be a bad thing. I don't know. It really just depends on how you feel about them. Adding more activities is the same thing. I hated the screwball challenges with a passion. I hated them. I don't want them back. But I feel like they should have had more activities like those. The Taskmaster challenges, those are fun as hell too. But again, it's something that kind of just disappeared. And I feel like if they had put it back, but I guess not put as many, I don't really know. Like, if we're being honest, I don't really know what to do if I was a developer. But if I enjoyed the game, story was very interesting at times, and especially with the symbiote parts. I think the symbiote parts were the better parts of the game. Don't really care much about Miles in terms of how they wanted to develop in here, or develop him in this game. It was okay, with Miles. With Peter, it was more of the dramatic sense with Harry and MJ and all the symbiote stuff that he had to deal with. And I think that's what personally, at least to me, kept the game going. It kept me interested in the story. But I feel like they could have done more. I feel like there should have been more done to the story and the game, and they just didn't do it. But I'm not gonna hate on it either. I'm not gonna call it the greatest game ever made, but I'm not gonna call it the worst game ever either. It's like, it was a good game. It was a fun, entertaining game. It's a good superhero game, but it's not better than the first game. if you're really catching my drift here. It's not better than the first game. And I think I'll just leave it at that. If we're rating it, I'll give it an 8. I think an 8 is a good... Yeah, I think an 8 is like a good rating for it. Because if we're comparing it to the first game, I think the first game was so much better in terms of how it did everything. I know the MJ missions were horrible. I will be honest with that. I hate the MJ missions, but the ones for Spider-Man 2 are a lot better. You know, it's like it has some comparisons that you can make that each of them have that's better than the other. But I think overall, that'll be it for that. It's something that I don't really know how to explain, but we're not here to explain stuff. I'm just here to give you like my top 10 games, you know. So I'll leave it at an 8 out of 10. That is pretty much it. Now we're moving on to number 5. Number 5 is Super Mario RPG. This is the first time I've ever played this game or ever heard of it. If I'm being honest with you guys, you know, I'm not a Nintendo person. I don't really play much of a Nintendo, but I do have a Switch. You know, but it catches dust 90% of the year. So I think playing Super Mario RPG was the most I've ever played on my Switch in a long time, and it was fun. I enjoyed it. You know, it's something that I don't like Mario mainly because I suck at platforming. You know, I will always say this, I suck at platforming, so I just do not like those games. And I loved the fuck out of Super Mario RPG. It was annoying at times, but it was fun. And I just loved it. And I know you guys loved it too, because you watched the hell out of them. So, I think for the first time I've ever played that game, I loved it. It was just very fun. You know, I felt like I was, you know, my inner child. And I personally just found it so much fun to play for the first time ever, you know. And like I never had the original 64, I think it was an N64 game, and I never played it back in the day or anything like that. So it was something that I was interested in, but I didn't know if I wanted to pay for it. Kind of deal. It's like I had a game share with a friend of mine, so he had purchased the game prior, so I was able to basically play it off of him, and I loved it. I think it's probably one of those games that I really enjoyed in a long time, and like it was fun. I like the quirkiness of it. I love the character designs were pretty good. I like the cutscenes. The cutscenes are fucking beautiful for like a Switch game, you know. So like most Switch games don't really look that great, and the combat was very interesting. It felt like Paper Mario. I've played Paper Mario before, and it felt like that. And it's like a friend of mine told me that they basically, you know, based Paper Mario off of RPG in some ways, at least the combat. So I saw the similarities of it, and I was like, oh, perfect. You know, I think now I see why it kind of just makes sense. So I don't know if I have much to say on this game because again, I've never really played the original, so I can't really compare it to anything. But I will say this, that for like a first Super Mario game for me to actually finish, it was fun. I loved it. I liked the RPG elements of it. I liked the enemies. The enemies are funny as hell. Seeing Bowser as like one of your friends in this game was also pretty funny. So, you know, it wasn't the typical Rescue Peach kind of deal the whole time. And I think that's what made me like the game. I might do Paper Mario whenever that new one comes out, or the remake of that old one comes out. I might even do Origami King. I never actually finished that one, so we'll see what is the future for me to play more Nintendo games in like the years to come. So if we're gonna give it a rating, and of course basing it off of 8 to 10, I'll give it an 8.5. I think. Personally, I think that if I had actually played the one beforehand, like the old one, I might give it a higher thing, or might even give it lower. I don't know for sure. But from what I've played, I played the entire game. I didn't do anything secret or anything of bonus besides like the lazy shell and all that stuff. I used the guide to play the game. I was lost 90% of it. So, you know, if I had played the game prior years ago or anything like that, I might even give it even higher on the list, but I think this is like a good placement for it, the halfway mark. And it was fun for a first game that I've just never heard of or played before in my lifetime. And I loved it. It was amazing. I'd probably play it again, and I really don't do that much. But I think with the rating, which was, I think it was an 8, I don't remember. uh, I think with that rating, I'll be happy with it. It was something that I enjoyed, that I have never played before, and I don't normally play of that series. So that was interesting and fun. Moving on to number 4. Number 4 is a favorite of mine in terms of the universe. Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I think Star Wars Jedi Survivor got too much flack, mainly because how poorly it was optimized, and I will accept that because it was choppy. It was pretty choppy even on console, and even on console it was like the best optimized one. So it was something, and but like if we're really looking past those issues that it had, and we're going off of combat, and we're going off of the story, and we're going off of the character of Cal, and all the other people that are in there, the game's good. It's like you can look past those mistakes and still play the game. You're gonna have issues. Not every game's gonna be perfect. I know that. Not every game has to be made shit until it gets improved later on. They don't get those types of excuses, and I'm with you on that one. But I feel like that game got too much flack because that game, the story was incredible. You see Cal develop as a character so much in this game. You see him tap into the Dark Force. It's like, or the dark side, not Dark Force, whatever the hell. It's like you see that a lot in the movies, of course, with Anakin and Luke and all that type of shit where they channel into their anger. But it felt kind of fresh with Cal. I don't know, because Cal was such an innocent character, and then this game comes out, and he's a bit more grown. He's a bit more gritty. He's very much more serious in this game compared to the first game, and it was incredible. This game was fucking amazing. The story itself was just so cool, especially with the fact that it dabbled into the Old Republic. They don't do that in the fucking movies, and I hate that. It's like I love the Old Republic, and I hate that they don't do it on the movies at all. So the fact that they dabbled with that, they messed with, they even had one old Jedi Master, Dagon Gera, be the villain for most of the game itself, was just so cool. It's something that it was something new. You never really get to see that, and so I think if we're really going off of the story's really good. So far, both Jedi games have been almost perfect to me, at least. Not everybody calls it perfect, I know for sure, but I at least do. I love the game. I love Jedi Survivor. I love the fact that you get pick different combat modes. The blaster. I was using blaster stands for most of the game. I was using dual wield for most of the game too. The two-hander was okay, but it was fun. These stanzas were all fun, and you also had the original, double-sided and single saber. So, if you are a nerd that loves Star Wars and just likes to go ham with all this shit, this game does it. It was fun with all the stuff that they added. And it was incredible. I think they did it so well. But the fact that, it had those launch problems, it sucked for some people, and I understand. But it didn't suck to me. I enjoyed it. Like I said, I love the story. I love the character development that Cal had, and everybody else. Everybody has some dip into, character development for the future. And so I know it's set up pretty well for that next Jedi game. And I think the next one is probably going to be the final one for Cal Kestis, so we'll see how that goes. But if we're just going off of the fact that if I enjoyed the game, yeah, I did. That's why it's so high here on the list. It's probably one of my favorite games. It's top 4. it was just fun. It was good. It was entertaining. I loved it. It was just like my nerd fantasies went live with the dual sabers. I love dual sabers, and it's always cool, especially with the blaster stance. So it was something that just, if you love Star Wars, I think this game does Star Wars amazingly. And it's like people will probably just keep hating on it mainly because how badly it was optimized, and I do not fault them for that. But you can't shit on the game. The story itself was good. It was very interesting. But I think that's pretty much all I have to say about the game. In all honesty, like if you want to see why I like it, watch my walkthrough of it. I did a walkthrough of it, and if you're not gonna play the game yourself, you might as well just watch the videos, right? So I do recommend it. It was a fun game. I waited for it for so long. After that first game, I didn't even hear about it, and I bought it just because it was Star Wars, and I loved it. So the second game was a lot better than the first in terms that it was just open world, or somewhat open world. It was sandbox, like so, but it was bigger, and it had less planets. I will give them that. It had less planets to explore. It was a lot of back and forth, which is probably my only peeve against it, but overall, I think the game was in itself amazing. It was fun, entertaining. His relationship with the BD-1 is, it's immaculate. His relationship with his crew is always good, and his relationship with his master is always good. It's something that I think the only thing that I hated about it is that if you wanted to find out what happened in between Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, you would have to buy a book and read it. I don't mind doing that, but people hate that shit. And I understand why. Some people don't like to read. I like to read. I bought the book. I read it beforehand. It was okay. But I feel like they should have done a little bit of backstory to it as to why everything is what it is. So, but if we're going off of how just good the game was in terms of just ignoring all the bad stuff, if we're just going to ignore all the bad stuff, this game was pretty much perfect. No issues with it. I had not too many bad issues at all, besides like maybe one or two game crashes. I think the game crashed, maybe once or twice while I was recording. So, it wasn't really too much of a hassle to do. If it was like horrendously crashing at all times, I would have hated it. But it only did it 3 times to me. So not too much of anything to just shit on it for it. But I think it's time to move on to the next game. And, oh wait, again, I forgot to give it a rating. Haha. So, if we're going to give it a rating, I'll just give it an 8.5. It's a 9, but for the issues that it had at launch, and it probably still has some of it, 8.5. I think that little small bits of point, it's mainly just because of the issues that it had at launch, and anything that's happened after the launch. I don't really know much because I played it, I finished it, and I was done with it. Now we're going to move on to the top 3. We have reached it. We are here. So my top 3 will probably be the usual suspects, and not really too surprising for some. But number 3 is Alan Wake 2. Alan Wake 2 is, I would say, is one of those games that I was waiting for so long to come out. Because I had played the first game, I want to say like almost 6, maybe 7 years ago. I don't remember exactly how many years, if I'm being honest with you, because I played it, I think I streamed it, I even have it on the YouTube channel, I think. But I ended up doing the remaster to replace it. But it was that first experience with the original game was something. It wasn't a scary game, but it was like one of those thrillers that just has you on, at the edge of your seat. You have Alan always narrating at times and all that stuff. So whenever it came to the second game, you kind of expected to be the same, but no. They kind of introduced a second character, and this second character, you kind of juggle the story with her. And I like her, she's okay. She's not too uptight, she's not too serious, it doesn't kill the mood. What I don't like is the fact that she doesn't narrate to herself at all times. I think that's the only thing that has me kind of like, about it. but it's also understandable. She's not a writer. She doesn't have to talk to herself like Alan has to at times to keep his mind busy and not get too busy with or too distracted with what's happening in the dark side. If we're really gonna really call it that, it's like it's a dark world. It's something that really just kind of poisoned his story. So it's something that you really like to see, and it keeps going, and it's a fun story. It's like something new that they wanted to do with it. They went survivor horror, and I didn't expect that at first. I think I was very shocked whenever Sam Lake announced it as a survival horror, and I was like excited because I was like, okay, perfect. It's not like the flashing the light to the monster making it disappear kind of deal. It's more you gotta fight for your life now, and I was scared a bit at first because I was like, I don't know, because I don't play games like that. But I'm still gonna dip my toes in it because I love Alan Wake, I love Remedy, I love Sam Lake. It's like I'm a big fan of Remedy, and I will always be a fan of it. I'm not gonna really sugarcoat it. I will pick favorites, and I'm not gonna lie. And I'd say that this game is amazing. I haven't finished it yet. Most of these games I have finished. This is the only one that I've yet to finish, and so it's kind of cheating a little bit. But again, I pick favorites. Remedy's one of my favorite developers. Alan Wake's probably one of my favorite games. So, yeah. I like the story. So far, it's pretty interesting. I haven't finished it yet. I'm still recording it for you guys. I'm sucking at that too. But I'm doing it. I'm still playing the game. So, it's very fun. It's very entertaining at times. The story, it's always like it switches you around a lot. And not a lot in terms of it like switching characters, but it switches you in terms of how they deal with horror. Alan Wake has more thriller, kind of just like on your face horror. Like you never know who's an ally, who's an enemy. With Saga, you kind of always know who's an ally or an enemy, but also the world's kind of weird with her because the story is changing at all times. So it's weird, but that's Remedy. If you played Control or if you played Alan Wake before, you kind of understand the assignment, what you're getting with. So it's good. It's fun. If you don't like horror, it's okay. I'm not gonna judge you for it, but at least watch the videos. It's fun. It's an entertaining game that keeps you at the edge of your seat. It scares me at times. I hate getting scared, but I still love the game. I'm still gonna play it. It's something that I'm trying to get over in terms of not playing horror games. So I enjoy it. I'm very fond of it. I've yet to finish it, as I said, but I'm gonna do it, and I will do it, and I will move on from it. I might even replay it again. I don't know, but it's probably one of my favorite games this year, just for the fact that it's Alan Wake. So I can't really talk too much into the story, mainly because, again, I have yet to beat it, so I don't really say too much. So I think this will probably be like the shorter part. So it's number 3. If I'm gonna give it a rating, it'll probably be like inconclusive, but currently it's at an 8. Mainly because of where I'm at in the story. So far, it has me, at the edge of my seat, waiting to see what the hell's gonna happen next. So 8 out of 10. That goes for number 3, Alan Wake 2. Now, we can move on to number 2. Number 2 is Final Fantasy 16. I think is probably one of the most beautiful games I've played this year. The character design's incredible. It's typical Final Fantasy where everything is over the top beautiful. And the icon abilities, always cool. I kind of miss how they were used beforehand, being, summons and whatnot. But the way that they did it, I think it was stuck for that game. And I think that game was very interesting with the story. It felt like I was playing maybe some sort of a prequel to Final Fantasy itself. Again, not Final Fantasy Origins, but something before Final Fantasy Origins, if you want to catch my drift there. Going through the game, it was fun. It was kind of dragging at times with the side quests. I think the side quests were overwhelming as hell, and it kind of like unmotivated me to play the game at times. Not gonna lie to you. The acts were good. The boss fights were incredible in terms of just the scale, especially the Titan fight. I think the Titan fight was probably one of my favorites next to the Bahamut fight. So, if we're going off of fights, the fights probably 10 out of 10. You know, the scale of them was just incredible. It was like watching Pacific Rim and like Godzilla times 100. So, those were the best parts. The story was okay at times, but it took me a while to understand what the hell was going on, and it took me up until the last few like hours of the game to understand what the hell's going on, you know? So, it was a good game, not perfect, but it was still a really good game that I really enjoyed. And I think it was probably, I think it's probably like my 4th Final Fantasy game that I finished, and I loved it. You know, it's like probably top 3 for me currently because of the list that I've made, or the Final Fantasy games that I've played. So, if we're basing it on just the Final Fantasies that I've played, I think it's pretty fucking amazing. It probably beats all the ones that I've played. But if we're basing it on people who kind of just hated on it just because it wasn't turn-based, or it wasn't, I forget what they call it from like what 13 and like the other ones did after that, but they kind of just shit on it because it wasn't Final Fantasy kind of deal. So that part was annoying, but just getting to play the game and enjoying it, you know, that's what I'm here for. If I'm gonna play a game, I want to enjoy it, and I did, and I loved it. I loved the characters. I loved just how passionate they were with their work, and I like how they, what's his name? Ben Starr. He's very passionate about what he did here, and I loved it. You know, his Clive was incredible. I loved Clive, and I'm really hoping to see more of him in other games, or maybe if they do a 16-2 kind of deal, you know, if they bring back those, that'd be interesting. But I think for Final Fantasy, it was an amazing game, over the top, as you would expect, beautiful as always, not much of anything new besides the combat and the world, and the fact that there was a lot of blood, a lot of blood. So, this is my number 2 on the list. Again, I think these are going to be very short in terms of what I say about them, mainly because I think they're just already spoken for. And these are just what I think. I think this game was good. I think this game was amazing. It was not perfect, but it was amazing. Because I feel like it was a bit too easy. I don't call it perfect because it was a bit too easy to play, even on the give me action mode. If hard mode was out before I had to finish the game, I would have done it. But it wasn't. So it kind of just, like it got too easy. I feel like the weapons should have had more variety. Power should have been more variety in terms of poison and like all the stuff to cause damage to people over time. I feel like they should have done those a lot more. But I'm not gonna go too much into detail because I already had done a podcast and a review of the game with some other people that I might link on the video on the bottom, and for you guys to see everybody else's idea. But I think I'll leave it at that. I'll give it a 9 or an 8.5. It's around there, just mainly because how I feel about the game. I loved it. And now we are here for number 1. So number 1 should not be much of a surprise to some, but it is Baldur's Gate 3. It is a game that I've been following for many years. I've never played the first 2. I will say that I have them, but I've never played the first 2. I love this game. I played a co-op from start to finish with one of my buddies, and we just loved the hell out of it. We had our issues with it, of course, but every game has their issues at this point. They were annoying, but we got over them. And I think if we're just basing it on the fact of how good it was, it's really good. It's really, really good, and I think it deserves the #1 spot in a lot of people's list. Do I like some other people's opinions? Not really. But again, it's their opinion. Same way this is my opinion. I love the game. I think the game was amazing. While not perfect, it was amazing. I say that a lot for a lot of these games, but I'm not shitting on these games, So, story was interesting off the bat. Characters, I loved every single character. I love the classes. It got me to understand how Dungeons and Dragons works. So I might start getting more into that kind of world, So we'll see how that goes. I'm scared, but it was just fun. It's one of those games that I really enjoy playing co-op. I think it's a really good co-op game. Single player, I've yet to actually play through it single player by myself a lot. But co-op, I did the entirety of the game in co-op. I think we spent around 150 hours to finish the entire game. So, I have some experience with it. And the both of us enjoyed it when we played it. I wish I could have streamed it a lot for you guys, but I was just somewhere where I was just like, I don't want to stream it, I just want to play it, And it was fun. It was so fun. And it will remain one of my favorite games this year. And I feel like it gets too much hate just because people don't like strategy games. Just try it out. Just stop being a bitch when it comes to these games. It's like, I try every single type of game that I can get my hands on. Even if I suck at them, I'm still going to try it out. And it's like, I suck at platforming games, I will play it. I'll play it once, maybe twice. But I'm not going to shit on it. I love strategy games. I sometimes hate them too. But you gotta understand, these games are just, they're not gonna be played for you. You can't just fuck around and, figure it out. You have to strategize and you have to just figure out how you're gonna take over. And it's like, it's fun. It's entertaining how to figure these things out. It keeps your mind active. And I think this game does that pretty well. I was able to strategize with my friend a lot to get out of certain situations. And it worked almost every time. Of course, we had to retry it, and retry it, and retry it, The story was fun, very interesting. I kind of fell off of it a little bit, and in the third act, but I went back up with it, if you kind of understand that. The story itself was very, very interesting, but, it kind of dipped here and there. It got very interesting at times. The main villains... The first bad guy that you kill off of the main bad guys is probably the only good one, if I'm being honest here. The other two are kind of just boring. At times, because they kind of just feel like you need to be evil at times to be friendly with them, and it sucks. But I think overall it was probably the most perfect game we had this year, and it paid off. It paid off. I waited for so many years. I had this game on the back of my head. It's like at almost every year I always saw something new of it, and I always watched anything about it. I never got to play the earlier versions of it, but I was just happy for it to come out, and I loved it. It was amazing. I played it with my friends. We all loved it. We still enjoy it. I'm replaying it by myself now, and it's like, it's just a fun experience, guys. Give it a try if you never actually played it. Play it with friends. Get friends to play other things, There are many other games out there that should be tried out by a lot of people, and people don't try them out, But I think overall this will be my #1 for this year. It did have issues, I will admit. We had some save issues, we had some glitches here and there with some saves, and other things that I don't really remember. But I think overall this game was entirely perfect. Now, if I want to give it a 10, I probably will. But I'll keep it a 9. Just because of the issues we had. 9.5. Those minor issues kind of just killed it a little bit, but again, we had fun, and I think that's the important part of it. So, yeah. I think I'll end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed. I really do. And it was fun to make this list. I don't know if I should make it every year. I don't know for sure. But we'll see. If people like this, I will make more of it. And, yeah. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. This is a long video, I think. I'll see if I can shorten it. I don't know if I will. But, yeah. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Get to see some insight from what I think. Well, really not too much. I don't think I really gave that great reviews. But I feel like I just talk from what I feel like. What I feel about the game, if I like it or not. And that's just how it is. This list is just nothing too serious. It's just how I like the game. And Baldur's Gate was number one, mainly because I followed that game for a long time. You know? So, yeah. This is where the video will end. And I think this will be probably the first video of the year. And I hope you guys had a wonderful year. An amazing New Year's. And I'll see you guys in January. And we'll see what we guys, or what I, yeah, what we come up with, or what I come up with for the rest of the 2024. And, yeah, so please do like and subscribe. Leave a like, leave a comment, give me your top 10. Even if it's better than mine, or you want to shit on mine, feel free. Everybody's opinion is valued. And, yeah, so I hope you enjoyed. And, yeah, have an amazing end of the year, or Happy New Year, whichever of the two. And anyways, I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.